I'm really hoping for some fast fishing so I can get back home to my baby, obviously. So you think we can do this fast?
I hope so. For Apelios, looking at the survey, everything that happened last year, it was all up the line.
At 28, Mandy Hansen finally broke her silence about the day that changed her life forever. A day filled with fear and heartbreak. Fans of Deadliest Catch know her as the fearless fisherwoman, battling storms and icy waters without hesitation. How could someone so strong and determined face such a crushing moment? Let us dive into the truth behind that harrowing day and uncover what really happened that changed her life forever. A life born by the waves. Mandy's life began with so much promise. Born on May 15, 1996 in Seattle, she was raised around the smell of salt water and the rumble of engines on the dock. Her mom, June Hansen, remarried Sig Hansen, a big name in the world of commercial fishing. Sig wasn't just any fisherman. He ran the Northwestern vessel and made sure things worked like a well-oiled machine. With that, her love for the ocean grew naturally. The summers spent out at sea, learning every rope and knot, built the tough young woman we know today. She wasn't just part of a crew, she was born to lead, to be part of the dangerous tradition her family held dear.
But he knows that I always have the boat and my family's best interest at heart. When I was 18, he didn't want me to go fishing.
But no amount of preparation could brace her for that fateful day. Before we dive deeper, it's clear that what Mandy faced that day was far more devastating than anyone could have expected, and the truth will leave you completely stunned. Sig often worried about his daughter following him into the risky world of crab fishing. As much as he admired her drive, he knew that the waters she sailed on held things no training could prepare you for. Still, she kept pushing forward, and no matter how many times her dad warned her about the dangers, the storms, the gear, the constant risks, she wouldn't step away. It was the ocean or nothing for her. She fought to prove her worth, and she made her mark. Yet Sig's worst fears seemed to materialize that day when everything went wrong. It all happened so fast. One minute, she and her crew were out on the deck working as usual, and the next, disaster. The power on the Northwestern suddenly cut out, leaving the boat adrift like a sitting duck. For a moment, everything stood still. Then the shouts came. Fire. It was chaos. She had to spring into action, the kind of moment that puts all your fears on display. Her dad was there, but this time, it was her who had to take control. She faced the fire head on, and while she kept her nerves deep down, she knew how close they came to losing it all. That day wasn't just about the fire, it was about the realization that even the strongest people, even those with years of experience on the open water, can be brought to their knees in an instant.
Because I don't know what the signs are. Him tapping, to me, normally means let's hurry up, let's set another pot. And I knew there wasn't a pot ready to be set, so I don't know what this means.
The fire was eventually put out, but the scars of that day left a mark on her spirit. Even after the fire, her resolve didn't waver. The company's website gave her some well-deserved praise, calling her a dedicated member who stepped up when it mattered most. But to her, that day was a reminder. No matter how much you love the sea, it doesn't love you back. After the fire, her dad hoped she might reconsider her path. He wanted her to see how fragile life was out on the water. But as fate would have it, the opposite happened. She became more determined than ever. She wasn't going to let one bad day define her, and she started pushing herself even harder. Advanced training, bigger boats, more challenging missions, she wanted it all. Yet with her career dreams always on the horizon, she was also yearning for something more, a family of her own. The ocean is an unforgiving place, but it's also home for people like her. She wanted to prove that you could have it all, a career as a fisherwoman, a family, a normal life, despite the challenges. Meeting her husband, Clark Pedersen, seemed to be a perfect fit for that dream. Clark wasn't just any guy. He understood the sea's call. They met at a maritime academy, and from there their connection grew, grounded in a mutual respect for the life they lived. A life that demanded bravery, resilience, and a touch of madness. But no relationship is smooth when you're constantly dealing with the chaos of the sea. She and Clark got married in 2017, and everything seemed perfect. They worked together, laughed together, lived that life many could only watch on TV. And then came the heartbreaking news. In 2019, she took to social media to reveal that she'd lost a pregnancy. It was a gut-wrenching moment, one that showed the world a different side of her, the one that wasn't always in control. The picture she shared was simple but powerful. A baby onesie with tiny crab-patterned booties, a tribute to the life she was building on and off the water. After the fire, Mandy faced new struggles, trying to balance her work and her life at home. Sailor Marie's arrival changes everything. In that moment, she became not just a brave fisherwoman, but also a grieving mother. Her strength showed in how she dealt with it, sharing her pain openly, not hiding it. The fans who saw her as this fearless figure suddenly realized that she was vulnerable too. Despite the heartbreak, she and Clark didn't give up hope for the future. They pressed on, continuing their work at sea, and they knew that this was not the end of their dream of a family. When she finally gave birth to her daughter, Sailor Marie, in November, it was like everything came full circle. The tough times, the heartbreak, the danger of the sea, all led to this moment.
That's too soon. It's just too soon. Get the guys up, okay? Get them up!
Naming their daughter Sailor was a nod to their love for the ocean, a reminder that the water wasn't just a place of danger, but also a place of life. She was overjoyed, and despite all the warnings, despite everything her dad had tried to shield her from, she was still here, holding her baby girl, ready to take on whatever came next. That day on the boat, the day that nearly ended everything, changed her forever. It gave her a new respect for the life her father had warned her about, but it also made her see the strength within herself. Every time she steps on deck now, she knows what's at stake, and she knows she's fighting for more than just the catch. She's fighting for her family, for her future. Is her tragedy just another risk of the job, or is there something deeper, something waiting in the dark waters that could change everything once again? Her path wasn't just about mastering the rough waters of the Bering Sea. It was about surviving the turbulence of her own life. The fire incident was a turning point, a stark reminder of the unpredictability of the sea. It was one of those moments where everything stands on the edge, and it could have all been over in the blink of an eye. The power outage left the Northwestern adrift, vulnerable to whatever the sea had in store for them. And when the fire started, it was chaos that erupted instantly. There was no time to think, only to react. The crew, with her at the forefront, worked desperately to control the flames, to keep the boat from becoming an inferno. Her quick thinking, her courage, and her resilience helped her father and the crew get through that terrifying ordeal. And that's when something changed in her. She knew the danger firsthand now, not just from stories or warnings. She had faced it, and she had come out on the other side, scarred, but alive. In the aftermath, the praise she received from her fellow crew members and the company was well-deserved. But for her, it wasn't enough. She wanted more. She wanted to prove not only to others, but to herself that she was worthy of being a part of that dangerous world. The fire wasn't going to push her away. It only made her want to dig in deeper, learn more, take on greater responsibilities. Advanced certifications followed, more training in maritime navigation and safety protocols. She wanted to be the best, and she worked tirelessly toward that goal. Meanwhile, her personal life with Clark also demanded her attention. Being married to someone in the same field came with its own set of unique challenges. Both knew the dangers of the job, both knew the risks they were taking every time they left the shore. There were days when Clark would go out and she would worry if he would come back safe, just as he worried when it was her turn to face the sea. But their shared understanding of the life they lived was also what bonded them deeply. They had chosen this life together, fully knowing what it entailed. And when they faced the tragic miscarriage, it wasn't just about dealing with the loss, but about leaning on each other and finding the strength to keep moving forward. With a new baby in her life, Mandy had to show she could still handle the hard life at sea. Mandy's fight to prove herself. Her determination never wavered. She returned to the Northwestern, throwing herself into her work with renewed energy. The crew depended on her, and she wasn't about to let them down. The challenges she faced at sea were numerous, unexpected storms that rolled in, the mechanical issues that seemed to crop up at the worst possible times, the grueling, bone-chilling cold of the Bering Sea. She handled it all, not just because it was her job, but because it was her calling. She found her place there in the midst of the chaos, and she thrived.
There's no good decision, and it already scares me having me and my husband on board now that we have a daughter.
The men on the crew respected her because she earned that respect, not because of her last name. She was one of them, and she proved it every day. When Sailor Marie was born, Mandy finally got the one thing she had been fighting for outside of her career. Holding her daughter for the first time was a moment that put everything into perspective for her. The dangers she faced at sea were no less real, but now there was someone else she was fighting for. It was no longer just about making her mark or living up to her family's legacy. It was about providing a future for her daughter. Naming her Sailor was a reflection of her own love for the ocean and also a hope that her daughter might come to love it too, despite its dangers. Balancing life as a mother and a fisherwoman wasn't easy. Mandy knew she couldn't give up the sea. It was in her blood, but she also knew she needed to make things work for her family. There were sacrifices, there were moments she missed at home, milestones in Sailor's life that she wasn't always there for. But she made the most of the time she did have, and Clark was there to pick up where she had to leave off. They worked as a team, both on and off the Northwestern, each supporting the other in a way that made the impossible seem achievable. Her path back to the deck after becoming a mother wasn't without its challenges. The first time she returned, there were doubts. Doubts from her crew and maybe even doubts within herself. Was she still capable of handling the grueling life on the Northwestern? Would she be able to balance being a mom and being a deckhand? The first few weeks were tough. There were sleepless nights both at home and at sea. The physical demands of crab fishing were relentless, and there were times when she questioned if she had made the right decision. But Mandy pushed through, determined to show that she could still be just as strong, just as resilient as she had been before Sailor was born. One particular stormy night, the crew faced waves that towered over the boat. The wind howled and the icy spray soaked everything and everyone. The conditions were brutal, the kind that made even the most seasoned fishermen question their sanity. But Mandy stood her ground. She took her position on deck, doing what needed to be done, her mind focused on the task at hand. She knew that there was no room for hesitation, not when the sea was that unforgiving. Her crew needed her, and she delivered. By the end of that trip, any lingering doubts about her abilities had been washed away by the storm. Mandy was back, and she was stronger than ever. But life wasn't just about surviving the next storm. It was about finding moments of peace amid the chaos. For Mandy, those moments were with her family. Every time she returned home, she cherished the time she had with Sailor and Clark. They would spend afternoons at the dock, Sailor watching wide-eyed as her parents prepared for their next adventure. Those quiet moments were what made everything worth it. The sea had taken a lot from Mandy, but it had given her a purpose, a life she was proud of, and a family she adored. Mandy's story is one of resilience, of refusing to back down in the face of adversity. From the terrifying fire on the Northwestern to the heartbreak of her miscarriage, she faced each challenge with a courage that inspired those around her. She carved out her place in a world that wasn't always welcoming, a world that tested her at every turn. And through it all, she remained true to herself and her dreams. She didn't just survive, she thrived. Now every time Mandy steps on deck, she knows she's not just fighting for her own future, but for Sailor's as well. She's made peace with the fact that the ocean will always be unpredictable, that danger will always be a part of her life. But she's also learned that there is beauty in that unpredictability. The ocean may not love her back, but it has given her more than she could have ever imagined. And as she stands at the helm, looking out at the endless horizon, she knows that whatever lies ahead, whatever challenges, whatever heartaches, she's ready to face them. From Mandy's struggles on the boat to famous shipwrecks, the ocean's dangers are always a big part of the story. The ships that defied the ocean. Throughout history, the ocean has been both a friend and a fierce enemy. We've used it to explore, trade, and connect different cultures. But let's face it, the sea can be unforgiving. Countless ships have met their doom, often leaving behind stories that remind us how unpredictable water travel really is. Today, we're diving into some of these famous shipwrecks, and believe me, the reasons they went down will make you shake your head. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. Let's start with the most famous of them all, the Titanic. Back in 1912, this giant ship was on its first ever trip from England to New York City. They called it unsinkable. Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't. They got warnings about icebergs ahead, but they just kept speeding along like they owned the ocean. And then boom, they hit one. The water rushed in, and in just a couple of hours, the unsinkable was gone, taking over 1,500 souls with it. The ship had lifeboats, but not enough, and many people were left to face the icy waters. After this, rules about lifeboats changed. But man, why does it take a disaster for us to learn? Fast forward to 1987 in the Philippines, we have the Doña Paz. And let me tell you, this one is just chaos. This ferry was packed, like really packed, and things went from bad to worse when it smashed into an oil tanker named Vector. The tanker was full of oil, which quickly caught fire, turning both ships into floating infernos. They were way over their passenger limit, safety measures were almost non-existent, and over 4,000 people lost their lives. The craziest part? The tanker wasn't even legally supposed to be out there. No license, no qualified crew, just a recipe for disaster. How do you even let that happen? Now let's talk about the Estonia. It's 1994, and this ferry's making its way across the Baltic Sea from Estonia to Sweden. Then, out of nowhere, the bow visor just snaps off. You know, the thing that's supposed to keep water out of the car deck. With that gone, it didn't take long for water to pour in, tipping the whole ship over. 852 people lost their lives that day. Investigations found design flaws and a lack of quick action from the crew. After that, rules for these kinds of ferries got a lot tougher, but the loss was already done. Makes you wonder, why aren't these things fixed before lives are lost? And oh boy, then we have the Costa Concordia. This cruise ship's captain decided it'd be a great idea to steer close to shore for a salute. Yeah, he wanted to impress the people on shore. The result? He hit a rock and the ship tore open, creating a 164 feet long hole. 32 people lost their lives, all because someone wanted to show off. Later, the captain got convicted for manslaughter and abandoning his ship. It's just mind-boggling how someone in charge of so many lives could be so reckless. Makes you wonder how some people ever get a captain's hat in the first place. Next up, the Empress of Ireland, a ship that didn't get nearly as much attention as the Titanic, but suffered a similar fate. It's 1914 and the Empress is cruising along the St. Lawrence River. Thick fog rolls in, and before you know it, bam! A Norwegian ship called Storstad crashes into it. Was Mandy's revelation the whole truth, or is there more she's still keeping hidden about that fateful day? Tell us your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.